Hi, everybody. Welcome to Systems Are Messy. I am Briar Harvey, and with me today is Paul Maskill. Go ahead and tell me about yourself, Paul.
Yeah, Briar, thanks so much for having me. So I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Been down here 9 years, originally from the Midwest. Live here with my wife, Angela. We've been married for 7 years. We got a 3-year-old daughter, Emmy. And that's kind of what keeps me busy, other than building systems and having fun with businesses. And my original background was the corporate world. So I used to sit in a cubicle and look at spreadsheets all day in the finance industry and realize there was more to life than that. So that's a
This
little bit
is
about me.
better.
This
This
is
is
much
better.
better.
So tell me then, how do you keep track of what you have to do?
So I do a couple things. That's a really good question because most people don't do that. They just wake up and like, what's going to come at me today? And let's start putting out fires. And it's more of a reactive thing. So I take the proactive approach. So what I do every Friday is I put together my schedule for the following week. It's nothing sexy, nothing fancy. It's basically an Excel spreadsheet. And then if anybody is watching, this is what it looks like. So it's what I'm going to do for the next 7 days, hour by hour from 4 a.m. when I get up till 8:30 when I go to bed. And that is just keeping me accountable because I realize when you don't have a boss, there's nobody telling you what to do, which is really nice, but can also be very detrimental and you'll never get to where you want to go. So that's kind of the bigger picture. And then obviously I need to book stuff on my calendar. So I use scheduling software like Calendly. I believe you use, if not Calendly, something that does the exact same thing. So setting my availability and everything, literally everything goes in my Google Calendar. So that way when people are booking on my podcast or I'm booking on theirs or my wife has something that she needs to do or our daughter's got to go somewhere, it's all on the calendar so nothing gets missed. So that's all in Google.
So I use Acuity, and I've been playing with Woven, which is an interesting piece of software. Do you remember Sunrise?
I do not.
Sunrise was this amazing calendar software that got purchased by Microsoft and then folded into Outlook, and then it, turned into crap. But it was this really great way to organically schedule stuff. And because I meet with a lot of clients locally, I like to be able to set an actual location. So that is a harder thing to find. Plan the time, plan the location, make it without being a big, overwhelming thing. So yeah, calendar software is an interesting bag of tricks, I think.
It is. And like you said, when you're meeting somebody somewhere, you also need to leave time to get there,
Hmm.
which some people like my wife who will add stuff to my calendar, say, accept this, and will say doctor's appointment 9:30 to 10:30. But the doctor's appointment's at 9:30. So that means you need to be available before 9:30 because you have to get in the car. If you have a child, you got to get them ready.
Hmm.
So I always like to, and in the calendar software, you can do that, is set kind of buffers. So nobody can
Hmm.
book within 30 minutes of anything. So it allows time for that, whether it's drive time or what if things go over or I need prep time in between calls, whatever it might be.
Buffer, white space, whatever you call it, it is vitally important that you have that on the calendar in between the things. Yes.
100%.
So, how often do things slip through the cracks for you?
To be honest, not very often, if not at all. And it's really just learning by making those mistakes. So when things used to fall through the cracks, it's like, maybe we should put this on our calendar because we've all been there. It's like, oh, I'll remember that. Like, I don't need to put that on my calendar. And then all of a sudden you get a call like, hey, man, you're supposed to be here. It's like, oh, whoops, I didn't put it on my calendar. I thought I'd remember it because it was such a weird thing that I wouldn't forget. So nowadays, my wife has learned to invite me to things because she'll tell me something and we're like on the go and I don't have the ability to put it in my calendar. It's like, just send me an invite. I'll add it to my calendar. And then all of a sudden it's there. So knock on wood, it doesn't happen too much anymore, but it used to happen a lot. And especially when I didn't have this little handy dandy thing that I print out every week, I didn't really have a structure to my day because there were still things on my online calendar, but obviously there's still a lot of that white space. So how do I fill that white space? So that's what I really use this paper one for. It's like, these are the things I need to get done this week. Let's fill them in these gaps where I have time on my calendar. So then I know what to do instead of finding something to do, like scrolling through Facebook or doing something that is not productive.
Ah, the Facebook scroll, the last refuge of people who have not planned their time properly. It's really true.
That is very true.
So you talked a little bit about setting up on Fridays. How else do you review or process the information?
So I usually do it. So I'll set that up on Friday. I'll kind of look through, I'll go through my calendar for the week. What do I need to get done? And then throughout the week, then I'll add stuff to the bottom, like, oh, I got to do that. So let me add that to my schedule next week, because this week's kind of already booked. So that's kind of what I do. But then every night before I go to bed or before I leave my office, it's like, okay, what do I have? What do I have the next day? So then I can kind of mentally prepare, and I wake up knowing exactly what I need to do. So for like today, I had to take my wife and daughter to the airport, and I knew I had to be back before 1 o'clock Eastern for our chat. So I said, okay, we got to leave at 11. So then we can get to the airport 11:30, and then drop you off by 12, and then get back home by 12:30. So always kind of looking ahead and working your way backwards. Then life is a lot less stressful.
So weekly and then end of day for you?
Yeah, basically. And then, I mean, sometimes things come up. So like today I had another podcast interview right after this, and they had to reschedule. So now it's like, ooh, what do I get to do with that hour? So then I try and kind of proactively fill it in so I don't go into that Facebook world for an hour.
So what do you wish you could do better?
That's a good question. So I would probably say it's like, so I follow the 12-week year, and there's a lot of great tools to track that electronically. Like, okay, you did 8 of 12 tasks today. You know, you need to get better. And then I share that with people who can hold me accountable, whether it's in my mastermind or accountability partner, something like that. But I've never been able to get into the whole electronic world when it comes to my schedule. Now I create it electronically, but then it still has to like be here on my desk. So I have all of my appointments on my online calendar, but my day-to-day task of what I need to do to get me closer to my goal, I still, for whatever reason, I still need to print it out, and I still need to have it there, and then I need to cross stuff off of my highlighter when I do it. So maybe it would be nice, because people are like, dude, you set this spreadsheet up and now you're not filling it out. Are you not doing what you're supposed to? It's like, no, I am. It's just on a different thing. So there are a lot of fancy little features with those tracking things and progress and productivity and all that. But I'm still kind of, I guess, old school. And the same thing goes for like taking notes. If I'm going through an online program or learning something, I still literally write it in my notebook right here. And people say that I'm like an old person, and I'm not that old, but I just like the pen and paper for some things.
So there's a lot of research behind writing something down and how you learn and store that information versus typing. The mechanism is not at all the same. So you are giving yourself an advantage by writing it out, by drawing that line through it. Yeah, that actually really does make a difference in your brain. So you could also think of, there's this fabulous digital notebook now that syncs with Evernote. You can literally erase the pages. That's worth looking into. And then with Evernote specifically, so I've paid for this for many years now. I will take pictures. It takes wonderful OCR readings of your handwriting and then converts it so that you have it in a digital storage file.
Very cool. Good to know.
So those are digital options, but don't get rid of the handwriting. The handwriting
I won't. I appreciate. I feel better now.
Yeah, it's important to write stuff down. It really is. So what do you do really well?
So I like cleaning things up that are a mess. Like that's my thing. That's what I do really well. So looking at something, this isn't working. What system or process can we put in place to not only fix the problem now? A lot of people are good at that. Like, let's put this fire out, but then they don't actually create a system that will prevent that fire from coming back again. So that's really what I love doing, whether it's going into a messy room or planning a trip that seems like there's 100 different things going on, or my personal favorite is going into businesses that the owner thinks are a hot mess, and really just making it very simple, taking the emotion out of decisions and putting all those systems and processes in place.
So, one of the things that I have a hard time with other people when we talk about systems is I say systems, they hear technology, when in fact I frequently mean things like habits and routines and not technical things at all. So, how do you have that conversation around what a system actually is?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's what everybody says. And I'll even say, let's automate this. And they think a piece of technology can't do that. Automate just means it happens automatically. That means a human could do it. So I try to break it down into, well, first, let them realize that, if your business needs you to survive, it's not really a business. You're just self-employed, because that means you're only making
Yes.
money
Yes.
when you're working. So let's systematize things, which just means it's done in a systematic way so that somebody else or something else could do it. So I like to break it down into basically 5 systems in any business, and it's basically following the customer journey. Within that big system are all these little processes that make that thing go. So your lead generation system, that's when your customers are finding out about you. Then your sales process or sales system, that's turning them into customers. And then delivering the actual service or selling the actual product that you're selling. And then the customer service, customer experience side of things, the proactive versus the reactive of keeping your customers happy. And then the last part is kind of all the back end operations. And that could be technology systems, it could be routines. This is what we do every morning. But really, when you start to break it down, it's really not that complicated. If it was, we'd be making a lot more money running our business.
Ain't
We
that the
would
truth?
we wouldn't be this isn't brain surgery. This isn't first responders. It's just business. It's supposed to be fun. So really just chunking it down there and then saying, okay, now let's document how these things are done. So then we can either automate it or delegate it, and giving it to a piece of technology. If you do the same thing over and over, maybe there's a piece of technology that could do that for you. Or maybe you have to physically do something. Well, if we document how you do it, somebody else could do it. You're not that special, even though you think you are. Somebody else can do it very well, because you can document exactly how you do it with technology, whether it's screen recording software or this very powerful little camera computer thing that fits in your pocket.
Yes, yes. Documentation. I had someone ask me the other day if I had a template for creating SOPs, standard operating procedures, and I said no, because if you give them a template, they will inevitably skip something. The only way you document an SOP is to have them do the thing. And then
100%.
and
And
then you
just
write it
record
down.
it. Yeah.
Just
You can
record it.
record it and you can type it, and literally nothing's missed. And it makes it a lot easier to give to somebody else because they can just watch a video. Whereas when I started in the corporate world, when I was learning, I had to sit next to somebody and take notes like all day for 8 hours, and then go try and do it the next day. I'm like, I don't remember
I don't
anything. I
remember.
don't know what this note means. I can't really read it, but I know they told me. So I'm going to try and figure this out. And then inevitably we don't do it the way the person wanted us to do it. And then we have to sit at their desk for like weeks, when really it'd be easy if they just said, hey, here's a video. Here's how you do it. Pause,
Here's
rewind, fast forward.
Loom,
Yes.
Camtasia. There are so many great options. Just record the screen. This is what I'm doing. I can watch that 5 times and do it forever after. Yeah.
Exactly. And if something happens to that somebody, whether that somebody is the owner or an employee, you could just say, hey, here's how you do it. It might take a little bit longer because it's your first time, but literally just follow these steps.
So, how do you work with business owners around creating their systems?
Yeah. So really, I mean, getting into that part, I do what's called a delegation snowball. So taking those 5 systems that we talked about, everything that we do in our business falls into one of those. So I literally just tell them to document everything that you do, not how you do it yet. We just want to know everything that you do, who's doing it, who should be doing it, how long does it take, how often do you do it. So really kind of creating this routine that they're already in the routine. They just don't know. It's like every morning I do this, every afternoon I do this, every Friday I do this. So we literally write down or type out every single thing that they do, have them go ask either their coworkers, their peers, their spouses, hey, what else do I do? Because there's plenty of things that we do that we don't even know because we could do it in our sleep. Once you got that list, then I tell them to just rank them of how bad or how much do you really want to delegate this thing? And then we just start at the top, the first thing that you want to delegate. And for every business owner, that thing's different. I recommend it to be like the easiest task, just to start that, get over that mental hurdle that, yes, I can do this. So it could be something as simple as, this is how I run this report. You hit these 4 buttons, you export it to Excel, and that's it. And then now you've started that process, you've given it to somebody else, and you're starting to see success. Other people say, I don't really want to go that route. I just want to delegate the thing I hate most, which is fine. That's totally fine. It just might take a little, like if it's something you hate, it might take a long time, and you might keep procrastinating because like, I hate this, but I don't know if somebody else could do it. Whereas if it's something super simple, you start to have success, and it's almost like an addiction, because you're like, now I just want to document and delegate everything. So kind of walking them through that process, write down everything that you do, pick the first thing that you want to delegate, document how it's done, either using Camtasia, Zoom, Loom, or if it's an in-person task, using your phone, and then giving it to somebody else, whether it's a virtual assistant, a contractor, subcontractor, employee, one of your kids, whoever it is, give it to somebody else to do.
Well, that's awesome. And I believe that's all I have. Do you have anything else you'd like to mention today?
No, I would just say it's not as scary as you think it's going to be. And really, the worst case scenario is if you delegate something, or you give it to technology, or you give it to a human, and it doesn't go as planned. The worst case scenario is it comes back to you, and that's where it's at anyway. So really, there is no risk. The worst case scenario is exactly where you're at this moment. So you might as well go take the quote unquote risk, do it, build that muscle, get better, make mistakes, and then start to have success. Because if your business needs you to survive, that's not a good place to be, because if something happens to you, or if you want to go on vacation, it's just not a fun place to be. So I would say just get started. The worst case scenario is never as bad as you think it's going to be.
That is fantastic. Paul, thank you so much, and I will see y'all later. Bye.
Thanks, Briar.